Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Qizhi. Coming up in this edition, Israel has released 90 Palestinian prisoners under the ceasefire deal with Hamas, while Gazans are celebrating the end of over 15 months of fighting. Hundreds of supporters of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol have stormed a court building in Seoul following the announcement of his extended detention. And TikTok is restoring its services in the United States after President-elect Donald Trump announced he would reinstate the app's access upon his return to power. We begin in the Middle East. 90 Palestinian prisoners have walked free from Israeli jails and boarded buses from the International Committee of the Red Cross to Palestinian Authority-controlled areas. This came hours after 3 Israeli hostages returned home following their release from Hamas captivity in Gaza. The prisoner release is based on a Gaza ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, which took effect on Sunday. The three-phase pact, brokered by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, aims to end Israeli strikes that have killed tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. Hamas will free 3 or 4 hostages every week, while Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian detainees held in Israeli jails. Jonathan Regev reports from Tel Aviv.
There were delays, it was chaotic, it was difficult, but the bottom line of the first day of the ceasefire is that 3 women hostages are back alive to Israel in relatively good shape according to what we have seen, and they are now in hospital getting good treatment and unified with their families. So altogether this was a successful first day. Yes, there were delays. Yes, the ceasefire got into effect some nearly 3 hours after it was planned. But again, the bottom line is that the 3 hostages are back in Israel, and also on the other side, the trucks have gone into Gaza in a much bigger pace than it did before, and Israel also released the 90 Palestinian prisoners it committed to release on this first day. Now, of course, the big question is what will happen from now on. There is, I would say, cautious optimism regarding the first stage of this ceasefire. This is the first stage should see 33 Israeli hostages returning, most of them alive, not all of them, but Israeli authorities estimate that up to 25 of these 33 hostages should return alive. Israel, in return, will halt the fire for 6 weeks. What will happen 42 days from now is we should move from step 1 to step 2 of the ceasefire. That, of course, is a very big question. Benjamin Netanyahu knows that he is in a very difficult place politically. 3 ministers already resigned on a Sunday morning from the government due to their opposition to the deal. They're all from Itamar Ben-Gvir's party. That party, the Jewish Power Party, may not have enough fingers to bring the government down by itself. But if the other far-right party, the one headed by Bezalel Smotrich, the religious Zionism, if they join, then these 2 parties together will have enough fingers to bring the government down. And both these parties said they will do it. They will leave the coalition and vote against the government if fighting in Gaza does not resume, if the second stage of the ceasefire comes to life 42 days from now. But once again, we're speaking of something that will happen 6 weeks from now. 6 weeks in Israeli politics is nothing short of an eternity. For now, there's joy, there's happiness in Israel to finally see 3 more hostages coming back home, coming back alive. That is the main headline coming out of the first day of the ceasefire.
That was Jonathan Regev in Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Gazans are immersed in celebrations as the ceasefire deal took effect, marking the end of over 15 months of deadly fightings. Rami Al-Magari sent this report from Han Yunis in southern Gaza.
It's a remarkable day in the lives of Palestinians here in the Gaza Strip. There is a pause in the conflict that has lasted 15 months now, and the people here have been totally devastated at many levels. So they had a little bit of joy because of the ceasefire agreement that was made possible by very hard pressure by both administration, U.S. administration, the outgoing one, and the next one led by President Donald Trump. So this is a remarkable day for the Palestinians who have been bearing the brunt of this war. Very cheerful for them, but it's mixed with worry, especially in the beginning of the day when the Israeli army killed about 20 Palestinians in separate incidents hours before the ceasefire. The ceasefire took into effect or came into effect. A number of almost half of them were members of the Hamas-run police force. The Hamas-run police forces have been deployed in different parts of the territory to maintain public order. The scene here is the scene of return of hundreds of families, households of the displaced people to their places in northern Gaza Strip to find these homes and these neighborhoods devastated completely or partially. Many of them returned back to their shelter places in Gaza City. The same case happened to those who entered, those who returned back to the Rafah city to find also their homes have been devastated or completely or partially, and the infrastructure is torn apart. Actually, that's the scene. Many of them returned back to their shelter places in other areas away from their original cities or towns, either in the south or in the north.
That was Rami Amagare in southern Gaza. Elsewhere in Asia, South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol spent his first night as a pre-trial inmate at the Seoul Detention Center after a court issued a formal detention warrant on Sunday, allowing authorities to hold him for up to 20 days. Following the midnight ruling, angry supporters of Yoon stormed the Seoul Western District Court building early Sunday morning, destroying property and clashing with police. Acting President Choi's son Mark expressed strong regret at what he called the illegal violence. Jack Barton reports from Seoul.
Acting President Choi there clearly trying to distance the ruling party from the actions of some of President Yoon's more ardent supporters who went on a 2-day spree at the Western District Seoul Court, throwing plastic chairs and rubbish at police, firing fire extinguishers at them. All of this, of course, after President Yoon himself turned up to testify at the hearing that was to extend his existing warrant to issue a new full arrest warrant for a 20-day holding period, which will allow the top anti-corruption agency to formally begin the process of filing formal charges through the prosecution's office. So President Yoon back in detention today, refusing to turn up for questioning again, despite now being held for an extra 20 days. And the anti-corruption agency saying they may force him either to come in for questioning or they will go there. Although one wonders what is the point, given that despite being held by them for last week, President Yoon has so far maintained his silence, and his legal team says he continues to maintain his silence. Now, and a lot of South Koreans now feeling this is very divisive. So the ruling party actually has an approval rating of 46.5%, with the opposition party, which led the impeachment, at 39%. There's a 3% margin of error there, but even so, the ruling party still ahead. And again, if you'd asked me this a month ago, I would have said this was impossible. So many things changing, and if President Yoon is impeached, there will, of course, be a snap election called within a few months. And now the outcome of that election really is anyone's guess.
That was Jack Barton in Seoul. Turning to North America, TikTok is restoring its services after President-elect Donald Trump announced he would reinstate the app's access in the United States upon his return to power. Popin Putin reports.
Popular app TikTok is back online for millions of US users after going dark just before midnight Saturday. This following the intervention of incoming President Donald Trump to circumvent the ban promising to sign an executive order extending TikTok's operations and absolving app stores of penalties. In a statement posted to social media Sunday, TikTok had this reaction. It's a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship. We will work with President Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States. The TikTok ban took effect late Saturday following a Supreme Court decision that came down Friday, upholding a ban unless the company sells to a U.S. entity. TikTok has a significant user base in the US as a driver of commerce of millions of small businesses and content creators. It's also hugely popular with younger Americans.
I enjoy the app, for its fun reasons, recipes, fashion, music, books. But I also think that it's really a good platform for people to speak their mind and to talk about their opinions.
I think the Supreme Court made a terrible decision on that. I just think it's a way to suppress a non-traditional media outlet from the U.S. people. If they can't buy it or control it, they don't want it.
TikTok, if people enjoy it, Americans enjoy it, let them have it. Good for President Trump for getting it done.
Congress passed the bipartisan law last year, signed by President Joe Biden, requiring TikTok to sell to a U.S. entity or be banned nationwide over concerns about ownership.
We'll take a look at
it. It was Trump, however, who began the cascade of congressional efforts to force the sale of the app to a U.S. company during his first presidential term. In recent weeks, though, Trump has changed his position and publicly signaled he would make efforts to come to a negotiated settlement with the company. TikTok CEO Shou Chew has been in close contact with Trump since his election win, even making a trip to Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. He's also expected to attend Trump's Monday inauguration. Writing on his Truth Social platform Sunday, Trump said, "I would like the United States to have a 50% ownership position in a joint venture. By doing this, we save TikTok, keep it in good hands and allow it to stay up. Without U.S. approval, there is no TikTok." TikTok has said it will not sell to a U.S. entity, which is why it went dark Saturday ahead of the ban taking effect. However, talks may be ongoing in the background, given that the 90-day extension Trump has offered is a provision of the law, and the extension is predicated on a deal to sell the app being in progress.
That was Popin Putin reporting. Staying in the US, firefighters in Los Angeles have made progress with containing the ravaging wildfires in the country's second-largest city. Officials have announced for the first time that the two largest fires have been half contained. Authorities have also lifted some evacuation orders. But the firefighters are still bracing for challenges such as strong winds and low humidity. Edis Tianshan has the story.
As some evacuation orders from the Palisades fire are lifted, some residents return to inspect the damage on their homes. But vast areas of completely leveled homes are still not cleared, as search and rescue dogs are still scanning the area for hazardous materials or human remains.
This is critical. We have thousands of homes here in this area that have burned. We have approximately 15 people that have been reported missing. So we're doing our best, and with the resources, and the dogs are an integral part of that.
It will take several days to search through more than 4,300 homes and businesses that have been destroyed by the Palisades fire. Relatively improved weather conditions in recent days have allowed firefighters to step up the containment lines around the Palisades and Eaton fires.
The acreage is still over 23,000. The acreage has been the same for the last 3 days. What that means is the fire is holding within the perimeter, which is good news. And we still have over 5,200 firefighters on scene fighting this fire.
We're seeing more commotion in the streets of Pacific Palisades as more residents return to their neighborhoods. But they're here just to inspect what's left of their homes, as many areas are far from ready for resettlement. We still have search and rescue teams in certain areas, while utility workers are performing damage assessment and debris removal. And in the meantime, fire crews are working round the clock to fully contain these fires ahead of another week of red flag alerts that forecast dry and windy conditions.
That was Edis Tianshan. In Europe, close to 60 heads of state and 900 CEOs are attending the 55th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this week. Starting on Monday, the meeting focuses on addressing global challenges and leveraging the potential of technologies such as artificial intelligence. From Davos, here's Juliet Mann.
The World Economic Forum's annual meeting, taking place here in Davos, is happening at a crucial moment. The global economic outlook is subdued. The risk landscape is bleak, with armed conflict, extreme weather and disinformation among the standout risks facing the world. And Donald Trump is about to be sworn in as US President for the second time. The world is watching and waiting to see what his administration is really going to do, especially around tariffs. The key word you're going to hear all week is uncertainty. That's what's affecting investment decisions and trade flows. But there's also going to be a lot of talk around innovation and technology. The overall theme is collaboration for an intelligent age. So the agenda is crammed with sessions around artificial intelligence, quantum computing and biotechnology. So who's coming? Well, China's Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang, Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, the European Commission's Ursula von der Leyen, Germany's Olaf Scholz, South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa, and many, many more. Presidents, prime ministers, finance chiefs and heads of industry, they're all going to be here. So do join us across the week on CGTN and on our social channels for full coverage and reaction from the most influential people in the world.
That was Juliet Mann reporting from Davos. Finally, in Asia, there are 18 days to go until the opening of the Asian Winter Games in the northeastern Chinese city of Harbin. The flame was lit at a ceremony at the Sun Island Scenic Area to mark the start of its journey towards the 9th edition of this event. The Asian Winter Games runs from February the 7th to the 14th in the capital of Heilongjiang Province. It will represent another major international ice and snow event hosted by China after the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. More details from our reporter Guo Tianqi.
The torch lighting ceremony for the 2025 Harbin Winter Asian Games has just completed successfully here at Sunstone Square in Harbin. Well, during the entire ceremony, my biggest impression is passion in the winter freeze. Well, first of all, the temperature here is approximately minus 20 degrees Celsius. It's freezing cold. Harbin is known as Ice City, and according to an earlier interview with the deputy director of the Torch Relay Operation Office, Tong Xiaoyu, Tong said that most people here in Harbin, regardless of their age, they have participated in ice and snow sports, and that the ice and snow culture is deeply rooted in people's hearts here. So the ice and snow elements we see here right now at the square is actually a symbol of fire and flame in people's hearts and their passionate expectations for the coming Winter Games.
That was Guo Tianqi reporting. Now, recapping the headlines before we go, Israel has released 90 Palestinian prisoners under the ceasefire deal with Hamas, while Gazans are celebrating the end of over 15 months of fighting. Hundreds of supporters of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol have stormed a court building in Seoul following the announcement of his extended detention. And TikTok is restoring its services after President-elect Donald Trump announced he would reinstate the app's access in the US upon his return to power. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a one-hour podcast news magazine program. We would welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thanks for listening.